Follow the Leader by Chris Swiklinski. So the subject of this project was about Commander Douglas Stevens. The objective of this project was to examine and discuss various leadership concepts to include leadership styles, traits, personal and professional accomplishments, and indicators of ethical leadership. The methods I used to conduct was observations and interviews with him as well as staff members. So a little bit of a brief bio about Commander Douglas Stevens. Commander Stevens joined the Navy in 1984. He currently serves on active duty and is stationed at Navy Medicine East in Portsmouth, Virginia. His education to include, he's a distinguished graduate of San Diego State University. He received his master's in business administration from the University of San Diego, and he's a member of the Eta Sigma Gamma Honor Society. Through his 31 years of loyal service, he has had a very diverse career, and specifically leadership positions. He's held leadership positions as assistant department head of a materials management department, as well as a department head for operating management departments, radiation health officers aboard aircraft carriers, the USS Carl Vinson. He also served as the individual augmentation, hospital ship, and casualty receiving and treatment ship platform manager for the Bureau of Medicine and Surgery. He also served as the action officer deploying personnel and joint prisoners of war, missing in action and accounting missions to Vietnam, Cambodia, and Korea. As I alluded to earlier, he's also within those leadership positions, he's made a huge impact in terms of providing care to beneficiaries. When he was the director for administration in Okinawa, Japan, he led a directorate providing over $31 million in care to over 38,000 beneficiaries across 7 medical treatment facilities on Okinawa. Additionally, as the DFA at Naval Health Clinic, Pax River, Maryland, he led a military staff and civilian staff as well. So he had, like I said, he had a very diverse group of about 55 personnel in about 64 functional areas, to include 12,000 beneficiaries of 50 of different tenant commands. Additionally, over the years, Commander Stevens has accumulated some serious accolades. Some to mention were the Admiral Zumwalt Award for Visionary Leadership. He received that in 2002. He also received the Young Healthcare Executive Award and the National Register's Who's Who in Executives and Professionals Award. And I believe that was in 2006, 2007. So the two approaches that I wanted to examine, two approaches to leadership I wanted to examine, was the distributed approach and the ethics-based approach. So first I'll discuss with the distributed approach. Having worked with Commander Stevens for years, I know he puts a lot of emphasis on teamwork, but he expects that each person does their fair share. So through the interviews, the consensus of the interviews that I conducted was that a self-managed team theory approach is often portrayed through him. And overall, his employees felt valued and that they had a sense of purpose. I know, having sat in with some of his staff meetings and whatnot, he asked for input on a lot of things. And every person within that department has something to say, and he definitely values their input. Now, why I say self-managed teams approach, it's really going to back up what I'm going to be talking about later with in terms of his leadership style and Commander's team approach to pretty much everything. Direct support, participation, achievement, inspiration. So, yeah. So next I talked about ethics-based approaches. According to Van War, ethics-based approaches generally provide a stark contrast to many traditional approaches in leadership studies that focus on either descriptive realities of leader-centric systems or the importance of leaders influencing others through personal charisma, visions, and skill, etc., etc., etc. Unfortunately, there are leaders today who, well, all throughout history, who display unethical behaviors that basically put their own interests first instead of their people or their organization. There are many perspectives on value-based leaderships, but I focused on two based off the interviews conducted of the staff members. So there were two basically that were most fitting. That was personal integrity and moral management. Personal integrity is in my personal opinion, is the cornerstone of leadership, and has a foundation comprised of trustworthiness, honesty, and fairness. Now, moral management focuses on the concerns of an organization and its ethical compliance within. This type of ethical leadership coincides with military code of justice, more specifically the Navy's honor, more specifically with the United States Navy's with honor, courage, and commitment mantra. In reference to Commander Stevens, as a United States naval officer, Commander Stevens took an oath to uphold the Navy core values. So, again, speaking with staff members and whatnot, they overwhelmingly said, as far as personal integrity, was one of probably the biggest things that they talked about, was his personal integrity and his high moral values. So next, when I was speaking to the staff members, I wanted to talk about leadership styles. I got a lot of mixed thoughts on this one, mixed responses on this one, just because commander's leadership style is a very direct style, but it depends on the situation given. It depends on the scenario. Some are more prominent than others. So based off that, it kind of alluded me to maybe a combined style be used for him. A combined style such as a directive and achievement orientated style when policy information was being passed, and it may be more of a delegative and a participative when problem solving was the objective. So during my observations, which is the next slide, I'll validate that. So during my observations, I was able to, not a lot, but I was able to get in a few meetings, departmental meetings. I didn't get into the organizational meetings where he represented the department. I was only able to get into meetings where he had meetings with his staff, and then I was able to get into one-on-one encounters with him and the staff. And what I wanted to do, I kind of wanted to see what kind of leadership styles he did use. So I wanted to be able to validate through the interviews that I conducted with his staff to do that. So bottom line is I probably would have to agree with the combined style for him, his directive achievement orientated and a delegative participative type styles. So one of the things that I witnessed during my meetings were when performance goals are outlined, they were clear and concise. And when opinions were asked of each group member spoke up. Again, that kind of goes back to where I was saying earlier, where they felt comfortable speaking, and they felt like valued employees, valued members of the group, and so on and so forth. So I think in my overall observations, again, it was clear that Commander Stevens used a combined leadership style more than one style, because more than one style was used depending on the task or scenario at hand. So basically, again, to reiterate, I encountered a directive and achievement orientated style when policy was being passed, and a delegative and a participative when problem solving was the objective. All the while, through my observations, I couldn't help apply the transformational leadership model that was employed by Noel Tichy and Mary Devana. According to the readings there, they asserted that transformational leadership is about change, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So this approach focuses on open systems, sort of like our organization here at Navy Medicine East, where it relies on subject matter experts to recognize change within the organization, um, as well as to value employee satisfaction in order to provide outstanding performance. Um, Having worked in this environment for a few years, I seriously do believe that this model holds true to the organization that Commander Stevens currently works for as well. Um, Navy medicine, or medicine as a whole, is forever changing. In order for that change to occur, people like Commander Stevens have to recognize that need for change and create that vision for change, and put the right pieces to the puzzle, and pieces meaning people, to make that change happen. Which kind of brings me to my next point, which is the behaviors portion of that. First and foremost, according to one's level of leadership in an organization, it may vary. Is it possible to be equal when it comes to task-oriented behaviors, people-oriented behaviors, and organizational behaviors? In my personal opinion, I would say no. From my experiences at the macro level, that holds true in my organization, where the task is the priority, but the organization is second, and the people are last. There always seems to be putting out fires, or it's more task-orientated. I was not able to validate whether or not this was true from a departmental level or micro level. That's because all of commander staff are well trained and self-managed. Therefore, the focus can remain on the task or the organization. But bottom line, in order for organizations to be successful, it needs experienced leaders, leaders that possess necessary skills and skill sets and leadership traits and behaviors to be effective. So I kind of moved a little bit quicker because I got caught up in my speaking. But so that brings me to my next topic of skills and traits. So what makes a great leader, or makes a leader great? Everyone at some point has worked for someone who thought was a great leader, but one that they would like to emulate. For me, that leader is Commander Doug Stevens. Well, I guess you probably ask, well, what makes him such a great leader? Well, for me, he exhibits exceptional leadership traits. One of tremendous self-confidence, decisiveness, flexibility, the willingness to assume responsibility. Additionally, he brings an impressive skill set consisting of clear and concise communication. Again, sitting in on meetings and one-on-ones with his staff, kind of validated that he has great communication skills as well as great listening skills. But the good commander would tell you that those traits and skills are not something that you were born with. He's learned them through the years of, again, being in all those different types of leadership positions in those different types of scenarios, taking bits and pieces from different leaders that he's worked through the years. Some successes, some failures. One of the things he had told me speaking with him was that he himself admitted that leadership's not easy and not everyone can do it. However, you don't need to know all the answers. You just need to be able to surround yourself with the right people, know where to get the answers, and know where to get the answers from. So, in closing to this, trying to figure out what type of leader he is. I would argue that that's pretty difficult to do. Through my observations and self-assessments and staff interviews, I was able to explore different leadership theories and styles and approaches, as well as kind of hone in on his traits and skills and behaviors. But still based off the information that I collected, I would say it's very hard to say exactly what type of leader he is. His traits and skills support not just one style of leadership, but a combined style. As I said earlier, it consists of more of a directive and delegative and achievement orientated styles. Is that that supported a transformational approach to leadership. Um, with his ethics based, on a core the core values honor, courage, and commitment. He exudes that. He has high. He's a man of integrity, but he's also a man of great influence and power, and he doesn't abuse that influence and power. The successes of his department can be attributed to his continuous engagement with his staff, continuously training them and mentoring them. So I would say that Commander Doug Stevens is a multifaceted type of leader who can adapt to any situation that needs to be.